To the north of Japan, there are several islands called the Kuril Islands. Now these islands belong to Russia, but there was a time when they belonged to Japan. The current Japanese government has an ambitious goal to find a way to return some of these islands back under the Japanese flag. But will Japan be able to do it, and in what way? Now might be the best time for this. That's what our video for today is all about. So did you know that officially Russia and Japan are still at war? After World War II ended in 1945, when the Japanese army was defeated by the Allies, no peace treaty was ever signed between Russia and Japan. It was because of the dispute over the Kuril Islands. For 8 decades now, the dispute has gone on without result. To be fair, Japan badly needs these islands. For them, it is a living space, while for Russia, it is just raw material territory. The Russians don't live on these islands, and the Japanese could build new cities there. Japan has a population of 125 million people, and they clearly don't have enough land to live on, while Russia, with a population of 145 million, controls the most land. Just compare the two countries on the world map, and you get the idea. If Russia loses a few small islands, no one in Russia will even notice. And for Japan, the acquisition of these islands will be a significant expansion. In fact, there are only 2 ways to solve this dispute: diplomatically and militarily. Until recently, no one in Japan would have ever dared to even think about war with Russia. Russia had a reputation as a very powerful military opponent. But the war in Ukraine had a very bad effect on the reputation of the Russian army. Russia's military power was greatly exaggerated, and Russian weapons proved to be very outdated and very vulnerable to modern Western counterparts. In fact, Russia is fighting with the weapons of the Soviet Union. Moreover, with each passing day, the Russian army is weakening from the battles in the Ukrainian fields. And if Russia suffers a significant defeat in Ukraine, there will be plenty of people willing to get even with the Russians. Japan will have its hands free, and the Japanese army will easily be able to occupy the Kuril Islands. In order to stop Japan, the Russians will have to use their navy, but Russia's navy is outdated. We realized this after the Ukrainians easily sank Russia's largest cruiser, the Moskva, in the Black Sea and several other large landing ships. Russian ships are not capable of defending themselves against modern missiles. Most likely, Russia will fight Japan remotely with missile attacks, as they're doing now in Ukraine. The greatest strength of the Russian army is caliber missiles, but their stockpiles are also quickly depleted in the Ukrainian war, and building high-precision missiles in the future will be difficult because of sanctions. Besides, even Ukraine shoots down 50% of the caliber missiles with its old air defense systems, so modern Japanese air defense systems will probably be able to protect Japan from Russian missiles. All in all, a military solution is becoming more and more obvious to the Japanese, but whether they will do it is still a question. Of course, they could just buy the islands from the Russians, but Putin will not do that for political reasons. The people will not appreciate such an undertaking, especially knowing what kind of corruption reigns in Russia. A few years ago, Japan was very close to signing a peace treaty with Russia under the leadership of Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. He met frequently with Putin, and it seemed that they could find a common language and compromise. The compromise was to be as follows. Russia returns the islands to Japan under 2 conditions. First, Japan must give up the US military bases on its territory and a large part of its serious weapons. Second, Japan must undertake not to militarize the Kuril Islands. All this was to be signed in a peace treaty. But unfortunately, nothing happened. In fact, Putin demanded the demilitarization of all of Japan. Shinzo Abe is no longer alive, and the new Japanese government is more radical. Under the current circumstances, Japan may have a chance to regain its islands militarily, and the new Japanese politicians may already be banking on it. We can increasingly see this in the nature of military exercises of the Japanese army. Perhaps Japan is now just waiting for the right moment when the Russian army will be so weakened by the war in Ukraine that it will not be able to conduct any military operations anywhere else. I suggest you also watch my next videos by clicking on them right here.